We are speaking to Sara Bannerman, who is the head of fundraising and communications here at the Erskine Veterans Charity. Now, one of Sarah's jobs is to help raise £10 million every single year, because as you'll hear, a lot of money is needed to keep everything going smoothly here at Erskine and to provide the quality of care for which we're known. And that is the difference between the Erskine Veterans Charity, the quality and the surroundings and everything else that there is. It's truly an amazing place, but that requires some serious fundraising. And Sarah is the person who's tasked with doing that, and she joins us now. Hiya, Sarah. Tell us about this task that you have then, £10 million to raise every single year. I mean, that's quite a task to have on your plate there, isn't it? Tell us about it.
It does give me some sleepless nights because, Erskine is Scotland's largest veterans charity, and I think the main thing is raising awareness of Erskine. Erskine is Scotland's largest veterans charity, and not everyone, I think, appreciates the size and scale and all the different types of care and support we provide. And the fact that we have a turnover of £24 million approximately, and of that we have to raise 10 million. So without raising that 10 million, we can't continue to provide that level of care and support and the level of service that we do. So ensuring that we shout loud and far about what we're doing, raising awareness of Erskine and what we do is really, really important, because people will only give to an organisation, a charity that they know and that they've heard of and that they know has a good reputation, and a charity that they can trust. So we have lots of different ways of doing that. Erskine Veterans Radio is one of them, which is fantastic. But we also do a lot of marketing, we do a lot of public relations, we put out a lot to the media to try and get some free publicity. So the first step is really just making sure that people are aware of us and what we do, and that we have to raise this £10 million a year. But it's not just about raising the funds, it's about making sure that any veteran is aware of us, and they know that they're that we're here for them at any point in their post-service life, that they know that they can come to Erskine. So when I first joined Erskine 11 years ago now, I think, I met one of our residents called Joe Parker, and he had lost his wife. He had served in the RAF, and he was losing his sight, and his health professional advised that he should be thinking about going into a care home. And he was adamant he didn't want to. He didn't like the thought of it at all. And it was only when she saw a photograph of him in his uniform on his mantelpiece that she said, "So were you in the services?" And he was like, "Yes." She said, "So have you thought about going to Erskine?" And he said, "I've never heard of Erskine." So, that's the sort of thing we want to make sure that everyone who would ever need us in the future or in the present knows that we're here. Because Joe did come and he had a 2-week respite at Erskine, and he absolutely loved it. And afterwards he said, "My family now need to make an appointment to come to see me because I'm so busy doing stuff and out and about and really enjoying his life." So that makes us feel good when that sort of thing happens.
The Erskine Veterans Charity does a lot of wonderful work and is a hugely respected charity within Scotland, a very big charity and well-respected charity within Scotland. But that said, you are competing with a number of other charities for donations in whatever form that may be, whether that's loose change or whether that's bigger donations, legacies and so on. How is it fighting your corner against the many other charities that are all looking for the same thing?
Absolutely. It is difficult. I think what you need to understand is people support charities for very personal reasons, and we obviously support their decisions as to which charities they would like to support. So what we try and do is we've done some research recently with our current supporters to ask them that exact question. What does motivate them to support Erskine? And it's interesting to have a look at some of the results from that, because the majority want to do something to support our ex-service community. So they list that they are either veterans themselves or they are currently serving, so they're very aware of Erskine and the support that we provide, or they know someone who has served, or they know someone who is supported by Erskine. That there is a huge passion, particularly in the west of Scotland, where we're probably well known, to support our ex-service community, but also in the north of Scotland. I think about 17% of the population are either currently serving or they're ex-service. So I think it's that personal connection that people have that motivates them to want to support Erskine in the work that we do.
The last year, of course, this is a question I've asked everybody, and absolutely everybody, of course, is affected by it. But the things that have happened over the last year, the pandemic, the change to people's lives, the restrictions that we've all had to face in different areas in many different ways, have all affected every way of life, and fundraising surely is no different. What's the effect been like over the last year on the fundraising efforts of Erskine?
It has been difficult. I mean, it's been, as you say, it's been difficult for our residents. It's been incredibly hard for families and for staff that work at Erskine. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our team in the fundraising and communications department, because, as you say, we are very much sort of behind the scenes, and they had to really adapt very quickly to working from home. Some of them had to adapt to quite different roles that they used to be doing. We've had to change the way we do things. For families particularly, where you've got mum and dad, both parents having to work from home and do homeschooling, it's meant that we had to really flex our hours of working. So we would have to, some of our staff were working in the evenings and the working weekends, just to make sure that they can pack everything in to the 7 days of the week. So it has been hard, and it's not that obvious because, as I said, we work behind the scenes. But we've also had to really adjust to learning new skills, adjust to online working, to new digital skills. And I think we're quite a close-knit team, so we missed each other, we missed being in the home. But what we have found is the response from our supporters has been amazing. So when we've been sending out appeals to our supporters, I think some people haven't been going out as much. So some people have had some extra cash that they've been very generously donating to Erskine. So we can only really thank them for supporting us and for continuing to be there for us, as you say, year after year.
And it's also really affected the different facets of fundraising that you have. I mean, I'm thinking particularly of events, walks or runs or things like that people would do. But, of course, your fundraisers need to get out and meet people as well. So that will have been affected through the lockdown period as well.
It has been. I mean, our fundraising sort of splits into 4 different areas. So I know you met my colleague Sarah Morgan a few weeks ago. She looks after our legacy fundraising.
Yes.
So that was hit quite hard. Trusts and foundations is another area, but we did get a lot of support. So trusts and foundations, we apply for funding for specific projects. So we've had a lot of support from the military benevolent organisations like the Army Benevolent Fund, the RAF Benevolent Fund, and then the Royal Navy, Royal Marine Charity. So they've been tremendous in supporting us. And individual support, so people who donate by direct debit every month, people responding to our appeals, people going online and supporting us has been fantastic. The area that's probably been hit the hardest during the pandemic has been our community fundraising, because we've got community fundraisers who can't get out in the community. So that's been really difficult. And events, of course, has been difficult. We've had to really pivot some of our events to online. And but people are still going out and doing stuff, so we're still supporting them. people are finding different ways to raise funds, getting sponsored to do sponsored walks that they've been able to do, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the area that probably we've noticed the biggest difference during the pandemic.
And we have noticed some great efforts with fundraising, I think particularly from some of the younger supporters as well, that I've noticed over the past few weeks or so with the Kilt Walk. I know there was a lot of people got involved in that now that things are opening back up again, and some of the other younger supporters who have used their time over the school holidays and what have you to get out there and do what they can. So whilst some of the mass events have not been happening, as you say, some of the individual initiatives have really been great to see, though.
Absolutely, and it's tremendous that we've still got that support. So there's been a lot more online, so people sort of going onto our Facebook page and catching up with different things that we're doing and supporting us in different ways. So it's we're very, very fortunate in that.
Okay, Sarah, let's play a song then to round off our first chat, because you'll be back with us on Thursday. But I know that there's a special song that you'd like us to play and a story behind it.
Yes, one of I've requested 2 songs, so
that's fine.
As a fundraiser, if you don't ask, you don't get. So this one is I've requested anything really by Glenn Miller. And it's in memory of Isabel Kirkwood. She was an amazing lady. Her husband had served in the RAF. He was a Spitfire pilot, and he was cared for at Erskine. And after he died, she came to volunteer with the fundraising department. So I met her 11 years ago when she used to go out to. She used to be a headmistress, so she used to go out to schools and do presentations for us. And she liked to come with us when we went to events. She'd sit with her dog, and everybody knew her. They would come and talk to her and chat and pet the dog and put money in her collecting bucket. And she raised thousands for Erskine. So in her later years, she used to come into the office because she just liked to sit with us, and she would fold all the thank you letters for us. But she wouldn't just fold them, she would read them to make sure we hadn't made any grammatical errors or any spelling mistakes, because if we did, she'd bring them back to us and we'd get a telling off. So in the last few years, she then came into Erskine to be cared for, and unfortunately she died last week. So this would be in memory of Isabel. What
can someone, or indeed I or anyone listening to this, do to help support Erskine? What are some of the many ways that people can help contribute towards that 10 million goal that you've got set?
I think one of the best ways to support Erskine is by setting up a monthly direct debit. Because as you say, we have to raise £10 million year on year. So knowing that we can count on that funding coming in means that we can plan for future years. So it's the most easiest way to support us. It would mean that you would get our newsletter that we send out to our supporters twice a year, and then we send out a remembrance appeal with our Star of Honour. Gives you a purple star to hang on your Christmas tree with a message from our veterans. So it's a great way to stay in contact with what we're doing and to support us in that. It's long-term sustainable income really, which is what we're looking for. So that's probably the best way. Another good way of supporting us is by listening to Erskine Veterans Radio, and tell all your friends, because what you're doing for us is you're communicating to your listeners, what's happening at Erskine. Then they can sort of hook into anything that they'd like to support, or any of our events that they'd like to come along to, and they're aware of what's going on. So there is so much going on at Erskine all the time. And this is a really good way for people to support us. So by telling others to listen to Erskine Veterans Radio.
Well, we're all for that here, obviously. But It's great that the radio station has already been able to play such a part in explaining some of the events and some of the fundraising initiatives that are going on. And even in this show today, we've mentioned some things that are happening for fundraising already. And not only do we alert people to what is coming up, but we're able to explain too about what has been happening and celebrate those fundraising achievements.
Absolutely. I think it's a tremendous resource. As you say, it's brilliant in it's connecting families with residents at Erskine and staff and all of our supporters, including our corporate supporters who can hopefully come on the radio in future months and talk about how they like to support Erskine, because that's an area I think that we would really like to grow a bit more, because it helps get that message out as well.
In terms of the name of Erskine and the passion and the support that the charity has, both locally and nationally as well, why do you think there is such a strong passion, particularly around the Erskine charity?
I think because a lot of people have been touched by Erskine in that they may have known someone, or they've had a relative who's served. And they are very alert to what we do. The best way is the words of our supporters ourselves. And the research that we carried out recently, I've just got a few here to read out to you, because I think they're very emotive.
Yeah, sure.
There's someone here who says, "Thank you for all you do for veterans. My granddad was with you and he loved it there." This is obviously from someone who has served themselves, and they're saying it's an honour to support the veterans that served before us. May you always have the resources to carry on the great work that you do. Another person said, "I appreciate everything the charity does. The work and the help they gives is tremendous. Long may it continue." So I think that's the passion that people have for Erskine and why they continue to support us. And I think it's because of the reputation that Erskine has, and I think that there are some interesting stories. I was phoned up once by a gentleman who said he was very disappointed that we didn't support RAF veterans, and I was a bit perplexed by that, because we are what we call tri-service. So it then occurred to me that Erskine was set up in 1916 as the Princess Louise Hospital for limbless sailors and soldiers. So people have very long memories, and I was wondering if that's how he still knew us, because of course we were established before the sort of formal RAF was established, so it didn't exist when we started.
Yeah, well, you weren't to know, were you, to predict in future? And what have been some of the more unusual fundraising efforts that in your time with Erskine that you can recall?
One of my favourites is it was a local minister who had a Spitfire car, and he decided to drive around the coastline of the United Kingdom and stop off at various points and raise funds for Erskine. And what we did is we arranged for him to, in Scotland, we arranged for him to stop off at all our care homes so that he could meet some of our veterans. And then we were posting messages of support from our veterans who were holding up thank you notes and things, wishing them all the best. So there's lots of very, very unique and interesting ways that people find to go and raise funds for Erskine. It's in our job, one day is never the same as another, which keeps it very varied and really interesting.
And obviously we talked about what the last year has brought, which wasn't very many great things, but now hopefully things a lot more positive as we look towards the future. What are some of the forthcoming fundraising activities that you're looking forward to now as we head throughout the rest of this year and into next?
I think we've been putting quite a lot of work in behind the scenes for the Erskine Armed Forces Day Big Picnic. It's a fairly new initiative, and we thought it was very apt at this time because of the pandemic, and we weren't quite sure what the restrictions were going to be. So we've been asking people to hold a big picnic in their garden or in their local park, and raise funds for Erskine. So they can go online or they can phone us up, and we'll send them out our big picnic pack that has some biscuits in it and some napkins and some Erskine flags and Armed Forces Day flags. And we also have an online event for the big picnic, which is being hosted by Elaine C. Smith. So that's Saturday, the 26th of June. So I'm imagining going to my local park and seeing groups of people having their picnic with their Armed Forces flags posted in the grass, and they're listening to and watching the show, and that's going to be great fun, and I'm really excited about that. And it's had a lot of support. We've had quite a lot of requests for the packs, so I'm really excited about that. So I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is meeting our supporters again. We've got a couple of other events coming up, and then we've got our military ball on the 1st of October. So fingers crossed that can all still go ahead, and it's always a fantastic night and just brilliant. It just goes by in a flash because you're just talking to so many people, and I can imagine this year it's going to be even busier because we haven't seen each other for such a long time.
Well, it's been great speaking with you, Sara. Thanks for joining us on Erskine Veterans Radio. And one final song then. What can we play you as a fundraiser? What would be the perfect song?
As a fundraiser, I've picked Pennies from Heaven. And I love Louis Armstrong, so that's my special request.
Brilliant. Well, here it is, and thanks very much, and good luck with everything for the rest of the year, and hopefully those events are all going to be all what you hope and much more too.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.